Well, it is my pleasure to introduce today's guest speaker. Jeannette Taylor was born and raised in the German-speaking part of Switzerland. She is a convert to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is how she met her husband. They got married in September of 1980. At first, they lived in Salt Lake City, but as soon as her husband found a job in Sanpete County, they moved here, which was in 1983. After both of her children went to school, Mrs. Taylor started her business, Tailored Curtains, which provides high-quality window coverings to residential and commercial clients. And I actually met Jeannette and Charis, who you heard from earlier in this semester, on a job that they were doing for Snow College. So I know that Snow College is one of her clients. So thank you so much for coming, and please welcome Jeannette Taylor.
So thank you for the introduction. A lot of people ask, how did you come to do drapes? Because this is not really a mainstream thing. Well, it started in Switzerland in, I need to put this in here. So in Switzerland, we have the choice of doing either 2 years or 3 years of high school. And I did 3 years of high school. And then at the age of 17, here you are. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? So we had a counselor, and as she was talking to me, she asked me, so if you work all day long and at night your boss comes and throws in the garbage what you did all day long, would that bother you? I thought about it. Yeah, I think that would bother me. She said, okay, we know that you are a producer. You don't want to sit in an office. You don't want to be in a bank where you cannot touch and feel what you've done. So she said, okay, what are you good at? And I thought, what am I good at 17? So in Switzerland, we start doing home ec fairly early, in about 3rd or 4th grade. And I mean, I could do it all. I can knit, crochet, needlepoint, cross stitch, and I can sew. It just came so easy to me. So she said, okay, there is probably not really a market for people who can knit or crochet, but sewing you can do. And it just happened so that my mother had a friend, her daughter was a seamstress, and she did clothing. And I went and talked to her, didn't really interest me, but then I had an aunt and she did drapes. So I went down to her place and I saw what she did and I thought, it's kind of interesting. Okay, I'll do that. So in Switzerland, it's customary that when you don't go on to higher classes studying, that you do an apprenticeship. And I found me a place quite close to where I lived. Of course, in Switzerland, everything is close because Switzerland is about 1/5 the size of Utah. But we have, last time I asked, there were about 8 million people living in that short, small space. And then, of course, we have mountains too, and you can't live up there. So it's quite heavily populated, and the towns are close together. The apprenticeship is a 3-year deal. It's state-sponsored. So you go to school for 4 days, 1 day a week, but you work 4 days a week. And the 1 day a week that we go to school, we learn, we keep on with the generals, with math, and in our case, of course, it was German. And but then in the afternoon, we went, excuse me, and we learned we had to learn how to draw our curtains in case we connect with a customer and we tell them, okay, I think we're going to have this and this and this. We're going to do a balloon shade, but on the other window, I'm going to do an Austrian shade. And they go, what? And so you have to be able to draw that out for them. We also learned how to make our own patterns. We learned about fabrics and composition of the fabrics. And if you have for example, a fabric you're working with, and it's 100% cotton, you may want to have a liner that has at least cotton in it. In case you take it to the dry cleaners, they both shrink approximately at the same rate. Because otherwise, all of a sudden, the front fabric is way short and the back comes out the bottom because it was a polyester or a rayon. So, we had to learn all those things. We had to learn how to figure fabrics. If I have a window that's about 10 feet wide and 5 feet tall, I have to figure out how many widths of fabric does it take on each side. And then you don't always have plain fabric, but you may have fabric that has flowers on it. So you have to watch the repeat. So if this big flower is on this side, you don't want it on this side down here. So anyway, those are the things we had to learn. And then at the end of the 3 years, there was a big test, a 4-day test. 1 day was written and oral, and the other 3 days we had to sew projects that they gave us. And we didn't know what they were. We didn't know what fabric it was. And we had to bring our own industrial machine. Of course, I didn't do that, but the guys that worked with us did. And so then you're done, and when you passed everything, you got a diploma, and now out in the world you are. Find yourself a job and start learning. And so I was working in Switzerland for about 1.5 years before I came to the US. And here I started my own business when both my children went to school. So one of the first experiences was kind of hard to learn, but it was a good one. I went to this older couple. They needed some vertical blinds for their whole house. And as we were talking and visiting, turns out that they were the grandparents of my daughter's boyfriend. So I felt a connection there, and I was really good in pricing. Gave them a great deal, and they were happy. And, they told me about how many missions they had been on and how many positions they have held. And is a red flag going up for anybody? Good. You don't have to raise your hand, however. So I have learned the hard way, and I'm going to go on into a little more detail with that. When people start talking about how active they are in church and how many positions they've held and all that stuff, it's because most likely they want to influence you in trusting them. And I fell right in that trap. I had such little experience. So anyway, we closed the deal, and about 1.5 weeks later, so it takes about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks for the blinds to come in. About 1.5 weeks later, the lady called me. And I'll never forget this. She starts out the conversation like, I hate to do a dirty trick to you like this, but there it was. She said, after you left, we went and we looked at some other blinds. We found some that were compatible to yours, but they are $100 less. Well, guess what? She had me over a barrel. I knew it. She knew it. I had no deposit. I had no way to fight her. And so I made very little money on that job. However, I learned, doesn't matter who you're dealing with or what they're telling you, you have to charge a deposit. Make sure you get a deposit. I always do 50% down, and that works really well. At least if not all, most of my materials are at least covered. And if that happens again, at least you can deal with them, talk to them and say, hey, you know what? We had a deal. I've never had a contract with anybody, never needed one. Down here in Sanpete County, we are really quite trustworthy, and most people you can trust. So anyway, that's what I've learned from that. So let's say you have started a business and it all went well. You got your first paycheck, and oh my goodness, does that feel great? Your first paycheck. And I think you get your first paycheck, go out and celebrate. I mean, go to the movies, have popcorn and a drink, have a nice meal before, take your girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, husband, however your status is at that time, and celebrate. However, after that, I want you to get serious, because it doesn't matter how well everything goes. Hard times are just around the corner. And when I say just around the corner, I don't mean 2 months down the road. Business can be great for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, but all of a sudden something happens in the economy and jobs come in slower, jobs are not as great anymore, and all of a sudden you need to rely on savings. And so you think, okay, I have to save money. How much do I need to save? Well, so what I did, and it worked really well for me, when I got paid at the very end of a job, I took the sales tax money and set that aside so I would have it when sales tax is due every 3 months. Then I took the same amount of sales tax and put that in a savings account. And that worked really well for me because it wasn't too much, but it was always the same percentage that I took aside. So right now it's 0.675%, so almost 7%. Well, that is doable, but it adds up if you leave it there. So many years ago, and I can't remember, was it 20, but it was probably before most of you were born, there was this man in Mount Pleasant, and he had a really great business. It went well. Everybody went shopping there. But for whatever reason, he didn't pay the sales tax. And I don't know for how many months or how many years, but all of a sudden the sales tax commission comes and says, hey, Mr. So-and-so, I won't mention his name, we have free room and board for you down in Gunnison. That's where he ended up. So none of you end up there, okay? Make sure you set your sales tax aside, and the rest, the other amount for the sales tax, goes into a savings, because that savings can carry you through hard times. Depending on the business that you have, like for me, the time after Christmas is kind of slow, but savings can carry me over that time. And sometimes I have jobs lined up from before Christmas. I couldn't get done for Christmas. Now I do it after, and that's good enough until about April, May, until the jobs come in again. People feel like, I want to do spring cleaning, and then now my blinds broke, and I want new blinds, or I want new window treatments. But that can carry you over a hard spot. I remember it was, I believe, 2008 when the economy collapsed. Oh my goodness. Oh, that was a rough time. But again, savings carried me through. And let's see. Yep, you have to set money aside. So you decide you're going to start a business. If you want to do that, you have to be self-motivated. Because there is nobody in the morning calling and say, hey, Michael, where are you? Your employees are here. You're not here. What are we supposed to do? You're going to be the driving force behind your business. You have to get up every morning. You have to line up the jobs. If you work by yourself or if you have employees, they depend on you. You're not just making money for yourself, but all of a sudden, you're responsible for other families that you don't even have. So you have to be self-motivated and get in gear. And sometimes when a job comes up and it's an urgent job, maybe you have to work late at night. I just had to do that. And this kind of goes with managing your time. You have to manage your time, and not just your time, but other people's time too. Let's say, and this is a really good example, let's say you're going to be a contractor. So you get a job for a house to build the whole house. You go and dig the basement and you pour the foundation. And the foundation has settled. You're going to call the framer and say, hey, I just got the foundation ready and I want you to come tomorrow, start framing the house. And he goes, you know, I have jobs lined up for the next 2 or 3 months. Why didn't you tell me? And so there you are. You didn't manage your time. You didn't manage other people's time. And then you can't go and tell the roofer, okay, the house is framed. I need the roof tomorrow. You can't go and call the people and say, the windows are ready to be put in. Come on, let's go and do that. Can't do that. What you have to do is lay out your project. And I had to work last Saturday, last Sunday, because I happened to slide into one of those projects where I was working for, excuse me, for a young designer. She hasn't done very many projects yet, and she didn't know that she had to get, in order for me to do my stuff, the rods have to be up. You have to select the rods. I talked to her last year already many times and say, what color do you want? She doesn't have suppliers. And so it was me. Well, that's fine, you know, I have suppliers. I know what to do, but you have to tell me the color. What color do you want? What end pieces do you want? And she didn't do it. And then finally, about 4 weeks ago, she told me which color she wants. Well, then it takes about 2 weeks for those to come in. She didn't have an installer to put those up. That's fine, I have one. And he went and put it up, and now all of a sudden she tells me, okay, grand opening is on the 17th, this Friday. And what I had to do is, it's for a dressing shop up north in Bluffdale. And apparently it's going to be a great big grand opening because the mayor is going to be there, Miss Bluffdale is going to be there, and who knows who else. So, and for the dressing room, they wanted to have curtains, really pretty curtains. It was up to me to get those done. Well, she chose very heavy fabric, which I did not know, and it had to be lined. And so each side, and there were 4 sides to them, each side weighed 15 pounds, and I struggled with it. And then there are 4 windows, 8 panels of lined drapes that are about 10 feet tall, have to be done by Friday. And so I tried to push her, but it didn't work out that way. And all of a sudden it's going to be on you and me to get the job done, because it's very important not to be late. So manage your time, manage the people that come behind you. Oh, another thing that I want to tell you about sales tax, pay it on time. So you have sales tax from January, February, March. It's not due until the end of April, but you want to be in good standing with the tax people because you know what they do when they don't get their money. So be on time. So you have done a few jobs over the years, and the biggest compliment that people can pay you is when they come back to you and they want more. And it might have been 15 years or 20 years since you've done something for them the last time, but they remember that you did a great job back then, and they want you to do that again. You were fair in the price, and so you go there again. So, and then another important thing that you need to do is when you have a repair, when somebody calls, this broke, that broke, another thing broke, you go there, I mean, within a reasonable amount of time, which is the next day. If you do repairs, word gets around that they say, hey, you know what, she came, she sold me those blinds, she sold me those drapes. And when I had a repair, she was right there and fixed it because her motto is, we're not throwing my stuff away, we fix it. Repairs is where you get a really good reputation. Sorry if words escape me sometimes. So anyway, and then when I sell something, they always ask, so what's the warranty on it? And I tell them, it's a lifetime warranty on parts. Labor may cost something. If I can't fix it, I fix it for free. But if I can't fix it, there are certain blinds I can't do, then it's gonna cost, $55, $65, but then you're good again for the next 15 or 20 years. So I had a lady call me, she's a good friend of mine, and I know when she did her blinds, because I remember when her husband died, and my dad died 3 days before her husband did, so I always know the year. So it was 1999. So she calls me about 20 years later, and she says, my vertical blinds really don't work anymore. I need to get them fixed. I said, that's fine. That's fine. It's probably going to be about $55 per headrail to get that fixed. And she said, you said there was a lifetime warranty on it. Well, yeah, the lifetime warranty on a blind, not a person. You don't buy a car and it says lifetime warranty and you think it's going to last you for the next 70 years. So I learned from that, when I tell them it's a lifetime warranty, now I spell it out. It's not for your life, it's for the lifetime of a blind. And in this case, the industry figures it's about 7, 8 years. Well, they last much longer than that, but the industry wants you to change your blinds all the time so they can stay in business. But I fix, and so that's what we do. When you go to customers, you sell yourself. And my friend Cheris has mentioned that too. And what that means is that you are pleasant, you're nice, you listen to your customers, you try to read between the lines what it is they want, because they don't always know what they want, and they try to describe it, they use the wrong description. So you have to be in tune with the customers. And when you're doing well, you're gonna sell something. One time, it was last year, I should have canceled. I should not have gone to that customer. It was windy, it was in the summer, and I have hay fever. And it had been blowing for about 3 days, and my head felt about this big. But I didn't want to cancel, so I went anyway. And I made about every single mistake you can make. I forgot to measure some windows. She just picked fabrics. She wanted roller shades, and she picked the most expensive fabrics, which she didn't know at the time. And as I was going through the numbers with her, I did not tell her you have the most expensive ones. I did not tell her, would you maybe like to choose a different fabric, a second choice, just so that it's not quite as high a price, so you have a choice. No, didn't do that. Then at the end, I couldn't find my bag. Didn't know where I'd put it. It was one of the rooms. I walked through every room that I was in and couldn't find it. And then she starts walking through it, and golly, I had put that bag that goes with me from house to house to house. I put it on top of her bed, which wasn't made. I'd put that on her sheets. Oh my goodness. Well, you think I got the job? No. No. It was my own fault. I knew I should have canceled, but I didn't. And sometimes that is better when you're not feeling well, that you call them. I mean, everybody understands, sometimes we just have an issue. Some people understand, others don't understand. This was really quite funny. Last year, I had to go in for a hip replacement. And so I was telling all the people that I was working for, I'm going to be laid up for a while. I cannot sew for the next 6 months, but I have a wonderful person who does installations for me so I can do the blinds. And this one lady, she thought it was the end of the world, that I was going to be out of business for at least 2 weeks before I can walk again. And she's begging and begging, and I say, Tuesday's my operation. It was Friday. And she said, well, can't you come? I said, I have to prepare myself for this operation. And she says, oh, please, because I really want those, so I go there. But at that point, I'm already on a cane. I can't walk without a cane anymore, so I had the cane. And I had my heavy book in the hand, and I make it up the stairs, and I knock there, and she sees me, and she says, oh, Jeannette, I didn't know you were so bad. You shouldn't have come today. I said, I tried to tell you, it wasn't good for me, but you wouldn't let me out. So anyway, just some of the things that people do. Another thing some people do is they feel like they are more important than other people. And it was years and years ago that Mount Pleasant had a home show towards Christmas. And so it was done through the hospital. It was a fundraiser for them. So you go and buy your $10 ticket, and then you get to go from house to house, walk through the whole house and see how nicely it is decorated. Well, I had a lot of business that year towards that open house. And I, and it was in the beginning of December, and so I was working as fast as I could. And this lady calls me, and I had known her for a long time. And she says, I need a window treatment for the front room. It is so bare, I've never done anything with it. Can you come? And I said, I have so many jobs lined up, so many homes I need to get done up. She said, yeah, but can't you come and just look? I said, it is so late. The fabric alone is going to take 2 weeks, and it's only give me 2 more weeks to work on yours, and I have all these other things to do. And she says, well, how about if I go and buy my own fabric? I say, well, yeah, that would shorten the time, but I still have all these people I need to work for. So she goes and buys it, and she says, Jeannette, I have the fabric. I say, I just can't do it. And I go and look at her house, and it was quite involved. What she wanted was going to be beautiful. And so I asked her, how long have you known that you were going to be on the home show? This was in November. She says, since May. I thought, oh, oh, and now you call me. Now you're going to make it my problem. And yeah, job never got done, and she may have been upset with me, but you know, if she can't manage her time, it's not going to be my problem that she doesn't get what she wants. That was on her. Um, 7 minutes? Okay. Let me tell you another thing that I did wrong, and then I'll tell you some more success stories. It was last year that this lady called, and she wanted 2-inch blinds, but not with the cord. They had to be cordless. There we go. And then it took a long time for her to get back with me because she had health problems. And when she called back, I went to her and I measured, and she never said anything about cordless again, and I forgot. So we had done the whole house. How many did we have? About 20 blinds? And they all had cords. And they all were up, and she said, Jeannette, I wanted them cordless. And I thought, no, you didn't. She said, yeah, I did. We talked about it about 6 months ago, and I go, she's right. Oh my goodness. If she insists on me replacing all those blinds, I mean, I'm out thousands of dollars, my cost. And so she was generous enough, and I told her, I said, I'm going to give you $200 off just to lessen the pain. She said, no, you just keep it. It's fine. I'll just deal with it. And golly, be careful what they want. Make notes. Write down what they want so you don't forget. Another important thing is when you go to an appointment, you see what your customer wants, be punctual. If you're going to be late, call them. Sometimes when I walk out the back door and my husband, he's retired, he just sits there. Now he wants to talk because I'm outside. Well, when I go outside, it's because I have to be someplace. And sometimes he keeps me for 5-10 minutes, but then I call my customer. I got held up. I'm sorry. I'm on my way, but I'm gonna be there. Will I throw you off being late? And most of the people say, no, I was just waiting for you. You just come whenever, which is great. And one time there was construction between Moroni and Mount Pleasant, and I didn't know it. And so there was this big sign, that said, delay between 20 and 30 minutes. And I had to be in Fountain Green. So I called the lady, thank heavens for cell phones. Call her and tell her, hey, I'm stuck in traffic in St. Pete County. I didn't know they were working on the roads. And so she said, that's fine, just come whenever. So, but be punctual. People really appreciate it. If you're sick for whatever reason, call them too, let them know. I have had people that I met for the very first time, and they hand me their house key and say, when you're ready to work, here is the key. You just let yourself in and do what you need to do. And I'm always surprised, you don't even know me, but you have to be trustworthy. If they give you a key, or they leave the house open, or they give you the code to the garage, you can go in. I never go any place that I'm not supposed to be. I will use the bathroom to wash my hands, because sometimes, if you're working with white materials, your hands need to be clean. But other than that, I don't go any place. I treat every house as if it was wired with cameras everywhere. I never take a piece of fruit. I never take a piece of candy. Sometimes they leave me in a home and they have money laying around. You know, I have to work in the bedroom, and there is cash money just on the dresser. Watches on the dress. Well, a good thing I don't like jewelry, you know, so doesn't matter to me. But you have to be extremely trustworthy. And when you're alone in a home, they can still come back and say, hey, my watch is gone, and you were the only one in the house. How are you going to defend yourself? So from very first, you start establishing that you're trustworthy, that you can be left alone. And when I go in a home and they tell me, oh, nobody's home, you know, just walk in and do your stuff, I always ring the doorbell and I always knock, because about 50% of the time somebody is home. Or if nobody answers the door, I go in and say, hello, anybody home? I'm here. Just so I don't surprise anybody. I don't want anybody come out of the shower and there I stand, you know. I mean, that would be terrible. So, oh, and another thing, be clean. Take off your shoes when you get into a house. If you go into a house and you see a whole bunch of shoes there, take off your shoes. Or we take booties with us and do that. When you're done with the job, clean up whatever you do. I put everything in a plastic bag, and whatever we brought in, what doesn't have to be there, we take home. When we moved into our home, and we had to replace the carpet, of course, and it looked really great. And so I walk outside, and my goodness, out on the lawn, there is that huge tube where the carpet was on. Carpet pieces were all over the lawn. And I thought, really? He's just going to leave it like this? Yep, he sure did. But that taught me a lesson. Be clean. Take everything with you. Sometimes it happens, you order something, but they send you the wrong thing. Now you're frustrated because you needed to get the job done, but you don't have the right supplies because you didn't check when it came in. So always open the boxes, make sure you have the right thing. But what I want to tell you is that when you get on the phone and you're utterly frustrated, don't take out your frustration on the lady on the phone. She didn't make that mistake. She is there to help you. And she is in control in how quickly you get the replacements. So it never hurts. Be polite on the phone to whoever you're talking to, because they are there to help you. And now I want to thank you for listening to me babbling on and telling you my experiences, good and bad, and I hope that you can learn from it. And if you do go into business by yourself, I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.